So with all of this doom and gloom we've been bringing you this Friday evening, let's talk about something lighter, more positive. The Lion King live in concert. It will be on at the Times Square in Pretoria next week. The film will be projected on a massive screen, accompanied live by the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra. And to talk to us about this, we're joined by Glenn van Loggerenburg, producer and promoter of the concert, and Eddie Clayton, the conductor of the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra. Very good evening to you both, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
It sounds exciting, definitely. I can imagine the Philharmonic Orchestra playing with this. When it was launched in South Africa, The Lion King, the movie, it was sold out. So what has changed with this particular show? I mean, it's a show of its own. So let's start with you.
Well, it's a first-time presentation of an epic scaled screen with a full orchestra playing just in front of the screen. And what happens is the film plays, and instead of the music for the film coming from, the playback with the film, it's played live by the full orchestra. And the score itself is by the Grammy-winning Hans Zimmer, and it demands a really big orchestra. And Eddie can talk you through that, but it's a spectacular sight and a wonderful sound. And it really is an experience you've never had before, to actually hear that lush score played live while watching this.
Which is what I'm imagining, and especially in an open space, Eddie. I'm actually wondering about the acoustics. Let's start with that. How do you work that out in?
Okay, well, acoustics is obviously always a challenge with a live orchestra. Generally, the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra, you'll see them on the stage at the Linda playing classical, symphonic music, or whatever the case might be. This is slightly different. We're in the Times Square Arena, which is a massive venue. It seats, I think it's 8,000. So acoustically, we have to mic the orchestra. So we've got state-of-the-art mics that have been attached, and it's going to be a complete, overwhelming sound sensation. They're talking about 17 to 1 symphonic surround sound. It's going to be something quite special.
And have you done this before?
Not this particular style. This is brand new to South Africa and brand new to Africa, and thanks to Glenn and his company, they've brought this in.
Just as the Philharmonic Orchestra, have you attempted anything like this before?
We've done similar types of things. Not like this, not with a visual screen behind. We've done various pops concerts with stars like AKA and that type of thing, but this is absolutely very unique to this orchestra and to South Africa and Africa.
So, Glenn, where does the idea come from? What inspired it?
Well, these kinds of concerts do happen around the world. So this concert that we're presenting for the first time next week debuted in Tokyo, and I went across to have the experience of it happening live, which was quite an interesting journey to make, because you have a good idea in your mind of how it will be, but you're certainly not prepared for the impact that it has. And just even the opening logo for the the film with the Disney, with the castle and the train, and you hear that theme. When you hear it played live for the first time, and you're only 30 seconds into a 2-hour movie, you realize you're in for quite a ride.
Wow.
So the process of presenting it is quite a sophisticated format that the Disney Music Group provide to producers around the world to stage the film in a way that is consistent quality-wise globally. And there's quite a lot of intricacy to the customization that you can do. Some territories, there are more or less orchestra members.
So what determines that? Because that's what I wanted to find out. What is unique from place to place? And in South Africa, with the expectations of the original production, I'm sure there'd be a lot going into it.
Well, the fidelity is accurate, so there's nothing missing at all. And in fact, where it isn't possible to replicate a sound from the score of the film, that sound plays back in sync with the dialogue and the effects where it might be absent. But in the case of this film, which is one of the world's biggest films, it's really important for us that we give it the full presentation and don't pull back on the orchestra and really let it go. And you've never seen so many strings assembled. And if you can imagine, these lush scenes happening and all of these players working together and in a counterpoint, and how Eddie can describe that, but I think that it's a very, very unusual sight. And then you're kind of not sure whether you're looking at the orchestra or the film, and you kind of dwell between these two places. It's an entirely novel experience.
And Eddie, just before I come back to you, but Glenn, just when you're talking about the adaptations from place to place in South Africa, was there anything in particular to consider?
For us, the assembly of an orchestra of that scale is quite unusual. But in this instance, on the opening night, Lebo M is going to be making a special cameo performance at the beginning of the film, and he may appear again. You know, he's got such a rich history and association with the project.
Especially with the years.
That we're very fortunate to have him. And Dr. John Carney has also, been very helpful to us and provided us with the voice for the spot. And in fact, his voice is kind of present in the arena along the way. So we have lots of opportunities to customize, but in this instance, the challenge of introducing a new idea and assembling an orchestra at this scale and getting it right was more than enough to take on. So we haven't been too ambitious in terms of changing it in any way. And what we're really aiming to do is be true to the film and present this new layer of experience to go with it.
Okay, so Eddie, let's talk about the size of the orchestra, and is there any particular instrument that's dominant? Because Glenn spoke about the strings.
Yeah, well, look, it's obviously a large orchestra. It's unusually large. We're talking about 85 local musicians, which is fantastic. So it's a proudly South African product with the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra. What is predominant, yes, the strings are predominant, and as Glenn very aptly explained, it's a lush sound to go with the lush savanna grass, if you will. What is very predominant now is the percussion, being coming from out of Africa. It's a massive percussion section. It's quite something to see. It looks like the cockpit of a helicopter, if you will. And there's 5 players in that percussion section that are working non-stop. So it's a large orchestration. Zimmer has thrown the book at this one. Big brass, big winds. It's a huge orchestra.
And has he recruited from those who have traditionally played with the orchestra, or is there some new talent?
This is brand new talent. This is locally born. There's not a single outsider. This entire orchestra is formed out of people that are, South Africans that are in the orchestras currently.
Okay, Glenn, let's talk about, obviously this is family time, it's that period of the year as well, so what can people expect just in terms of beyond the production? What kind of atmosphere, ambiance are we going with?
Well, it's certainly an exciting experience for the whole family to attend. It's very unusual. I think when you consider family entertainment, going to see the orchestra doesn't spring to mind immediately. So the benefit of the combination of the film and the presentation of the orchestra makes for something quite unique in a market for entertainment where, there are quite familiar formats that are out there that return every year. So it's something quite unique. And for families who, want to expose their children to a particular kind of culture, but also the unusual experience of watching a film with thousands of people. We don't really have drive-ins anymore, which is about as close as you would get. Yeah. So if you go to a big cineplex, there's a limit to how many people are in there. But now you're in a room at very high volume with a massive screen and lots of people participating in the experience with you. And, my experience of attending the concert at its debut in Japan was to look around quite a lot at the audience to see how they were reacting. And it's quite incredible to see how the children in particular were fascinated to
Glenn,
actually see
unfortunately,
that.
we have run out of time, but I have to ask you these very important questions. Where, how much, and when?
Tickets are available at CompuTicket. The show ticket prices run from $200 to $595. So there's ample kind of space in there. If you've got a family of 4, it's not going to clean you out completely, one hopes. And then the show itself it debuts on Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. and it runs every day, Wednesday and Thursday. There's also a matinee at 2 o'clock on Thursday for the younger fair.
All right. Thank you very much to you both. Glenn van Loggerenburg, who's a producer and promoter of Disney's The Lion King, and Eddie Clayton, who is conductor with the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra.